a great pleasure for me to introduce Dr. Dee Barker. Dr. Barker is a chemistry professor at Alaska Pacific University since 2018. She has a really diverse group of students in her classes, from very little experience in chemistry to very advanced, and they all are focusing on utilizing FTIRs. These students range from nursing students to environmental and health sciences students, and all are not only getting introduced to FTIR, but also to the analysis of microplastics. So welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Suja. It's a pleasure to be here. And I am excited to talk about the Thermo Fisher Summit X spectrometer, FTIR spectrometer, because we've had already amazing success using it for our classes. And I just wanted to say a little bit more about our university and our students so that your audience can appreciate the success that we've had. I've begun the use of the FTIR in our organic chem class last spring. This is when we first purchased it. And I was a little bit unsure how well I would be able to integrate this into our lower level courses, first year general chemistry. I was a little bit uncertain, but I happened to have a few students this last summer from my first year, my just one semester of general chemistry, who started to work on this instrument. And just a little bit more about my success also involves my approach with teaching is always hands-on. And I've been trained to develop pedagogy that can help students grasp more complex type of concepts. So Alaska, as everyone probably knows, is a place where there's a lot of interesting landscape, mountains, lakes, and we have our students do research projects that go right into the environment and explore the things going on there. And Alaska has also been highly impacted by climate change. And so among our research projects, we're looking at potential impacts from climate change and the impacts on human beings on our environment. And so because of that overall stretch of interest, our students are particularly interested at looking at microplastics. That's already something that they were very fired up about in the first place. We started up with the Summit X FTIR that we purchased from your company, the Thermo Fisher company. And I wasn't certain how well the students would perform on it, like I said, but when we first started to do our work on it, we paired the instrument with a SciTech Survey IR microscope. And the very first time that we put some microplastics that we had filtered out of tap water under the microscope, that they were very excited about it and found that their project had come to fruition. So they're very excited about that.
How is, in general, this analysis conducted in your lab? And are there like some key steps you would like to share with our listeners?
Sure. Thank you, Suja, for your question. One of the first things that we did when we were exploring what instrument to purchase, we were on your website and we were looking at the various videos on the Thermo Fisher website for their respective FTIR instruments. So we came across papers and descriptions of the actual potential process that could be used. And among those was the use of the SciTech Survey IR microscope. So that was one thought that we had that we added to our list of things we wanted to purchase. And in addition to that, you also had on your website papers that describe the process and the methods. And so we paid attention to those. So additional instrumentation that we obtained was also a fluorescent microscope. And we obtained a filtration system. It was very simple, not too much different than what we already have in the lab. We had a filtration flask. We purchased additional filtration funnels to go on top that would be specialized for filtering out the microplastics. We purchased also specific filter papers that would be, well, they actually are cellulose, so they're actually IR active, but we also prepared ourselves to transfer microplastics to a low emission microscope to be used with the SciTech Survey IR microscope. Now, in addition to this, we also purchased some dye, it's called Nile Red dye, and we use this to actually dye the water that we are filtering. And the dyed water, it actually doesn't stick to the water itself, it actually sticks to microplastics preferentially. And so we filtered the water that had the dye in it, and the dye itself stuck to the microplastics. And what that dye does is that it fluoresces on the actual microplastics and does not actually fluoresce under any other type of particles that we've discovered so far. And so we put the filter paper under the fluorescent microscope, and from there, we identify the potential particles that would be the microplastics. Then we transfer the microplastics to a low emission microscope slide, and then put that on the FTIR instrument with the microscope accessory. And there we found the microplastics that we had of interest. And then we used the Summit X to identify what the plastics were. Now, that's not the only thing we did. I'm going to stop there. And if you want to ask another question, please go ahead. I have more information, but I don't want to give you information overload.
Thank you so much for that. So, how do you think that your work contributes towards a healthier, cleaner, and safer world?
Well, that's a wonderful question. I have a PhD in chemistry, and I have a lot of experience with analytical work. I worked for an analytical company once upon a time where we took samples from the environment, and we were working for different clients to explore what type of potential toxins were there in their environment or in their waterways. So with that PhD, it was a very conventional PhD. I mean, I don't want to belittle it, but it's very conventional. And just recently, I started a new program. What I mean is that I've returned back to school while I'm working, and I am in a program at the University of Alaska in Fairbanks. It's an online program, but its purpose is to teach about what's called One Health. And One Health is an approach to doing such work that I'm doing now with my students to explore the interrelations of people and animals and environment together, and how our health, the circumstances, the environment around us impacts our health and the health of the animals that live off of the environment. And so microplastics is becoming a more and more important topic, because as we start, different scientists across the globe have started to explore this topic and to see what's in the environment. We've become aware that microplastics have been highly proliferating around the world. There is the content of the natural waterways has increased in microplastics as far as we can tell. And last but not least, one of the things that I find really important with what we obtained from the Thermo Fisher company was a microplastics library. And the importance of that is that since microplastics apparently has been in the environment for some time, the microplastics have started to oxidize and to degrade. And it's important because we may not be able to easily identify what the microplastics are in content. That's our goal. And we want to find what the content is, because that will help us identify the potential sources of the microplastics. And so, yes, we have a global interest, how microplastics has impacted the globe overall, all these different environments. But most importantly, we are also looking at the impact of microplastics in what we would think would be pristine environments. And so we're looking at lakes at the top of mountains. We're looking at microplastics in snow. We're looking at microplastics in streams that you would think that would be so far from human population that they wouldn't see it there, but we have. And so it's a very important topic, and it's also very important for human and animal and environmental health.
Thank you so much for sharing all this great information with us. We really appreciate you joining us, Dr. D. Barker. Thank you.